Welcome to everyone on this absolutely stunning and beautiful day. I, for one, am so happy to be here. I have missed all of you. I have missed all of you so much. While it's wonderful to go on vacation, it is even more wonderful to come back and to be back with the community and standing up here and looking out at all of you, your wonderful faces. So thank you for allowing me to be here today. Welcome to everyone that is at home that's invited us into the privacy of your own home by the technology of YouTube and streaming. Welcome to all of you.
Today's reading is from Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of the philosophy of the science of mind. We must not be disturbed by the contradiction of objective experience. We shall have to know that the truth we announce is superior to the condition which is to change. We shall have to see that God in us recognizes God in the other person until the God in the other person recognizes the God in us. This cannot be done by human will. It is only when we recognize the pure essence of the spiritual principle inherent and incarnate in each of us that we find that the thought arising from the atmosphere of spiritual realization has no adverse.
So when I found out today's theme was the courage to forgive, I dug up the song that I had downloaded probably close to 2 years ago that's been sitting in a book that I never listened to nor played, and went to YouTube to listen to it and actually ended up in the whole story behind it. And the song was written about a woman who lost her teenage daughter in a car accident, and the gentleman that caused her death was a young man, 22, 24 years old, so obviously his life was completely changed as well, and he went to jail for a very, very long time. His whole youth was basically shot and into adulthood, and somehow the mom came to a place where she could forgive him. And she went to the jail and she started talking to him, and it changed her life, it changed his life. Her entire family started going in and speaking with him. He became part of their family. They went to the judge and they spoke with him, and they got his sentence, I think, almost cut in half. And it just changed everybody. I mean, everybody got to breathe and live and be okay in the middle of a really, really tragic situation. So I figure if they can work through that, we should be able to do a little bit of work too. And this is a song that's simply called Forgiveness, and it is by Matthew West. If I had the right song, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? Okay. 105.
Five.
Good. It's the hardest thing to give away, and the last thing on your mind today. It seems to go to those who don't deserve. It's the opposite of how you feel when the pain they caused is oh so real. It takes everything you have to say the word forgiveness. Flies in the face of all your pride, but it clears away the mad inside. It's always anger's own worst enemy. And even when the jury and the judge say you got a right to hold that grudge, it's the whisper in your ear saying set it free. Oh, forgiveness. Forgiveness. lovable, and show me how to reach the unreachable, and help me now to do the impossible. Forgiveness. Oh, forgiveness. Help me now to do the impossible. Forgiveness. It'll clear the bitterness away, even set a prisoner free. There is no end to what its power can do. So let it go and be amazed by what you see through the eyes of grace. The prisoner it really frees is you. Forgiveness. Oh, forgiveness. Forgiveness. It shows me how to love the unlovable, teaches me how to reach the unreachable. It helps me now to do the impossible. Forgiveness. Oh, forgiveness. Thank you.
Okay, I think I could probably just pray and we'll call it a morning, because that so sums up the entire talk, really. And I love many lines in it, but the ones that hit me just now, this morning, it's that little voice that whispers in your ear that tells you to just let it go, right? But to this now, in this moment, it was see how it feels to look through the eyes of grace. Through the eyes of grace, that the prisoner that it frees is you. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Mark West? Matthew West. Mark's brother. So good morning to those of you that may have just arrived. The theme for the month of July is loving kindness and forgiveness. In case you hadn't guessed, it would have something to do with forgiveness. And my talk title is The Courage to Be Forgiving. Now, the underlying statement from Ernest Holmes' What We Believe statements is we see a worldwide culture in which forgiveness, whether for errors, injustice, or debts, is the norm. And the underlying science of mind point of view is that God knows only wholeness, perfection, and completion, and sees all of its creations as whole, perfect, and complete. God knows nothing of forgiveness. Forgiveness is a human process by which we move from this idea of our separation from God or our separation from our good to a recognition of our unity with God or our unity with our good. Forgiveness is a shift in consciousness from fear to love. Forgiveness moves us out of victimhood into a recognition that we live in a universe that always supports us, that life always supports us, no matter what our human perceptions seem to be telling us, no matter what. That behind that veil is the truth. Behind that fog of the Maya is the truth. Now, there's three main talking points I want to talk about this morning, and the first is that Spirit knows only its own divine nature, and that it expresses its nature through all of its creations, that there is only one, and that we are inseparable in it and from it. Inseparable. Now, this is a slide of the largest organism on Earth. It's a fungus. It occupies 2,384 acres in the Blue Mountains of Oregon. To put it into some perspective, it would cover over 4 square miles. 4 square miles. Now, this one organism pushes up mushrooms at the base of trees and has developed a way to span across large areas of space, large areas of geography, without a very large food supply. Now, all of the mushrooms, each one of the mushrooms is unique and has its own characteristics, but it is still connected to a collective root system and is considered only one organism. One organism. Now, if you've been attending the center for any length of time, this is going to sound a little bit familiar to you, right? Many expressions from one source. Unique and individualized expressions of the one. Now, I had a truly amazing experience of being connected to nature, to beauty, to the divine itself while I was in Greece. One afternoon, we had the afternoon off, and I chose, as Marianne alluded to go to the beach. I was looking for a different color of shade. It also is the place where I find the most peace. You know, you may not know this about me, but I do have a tattoo that is a beach chair and a beach umbrella. So I bring my peace with me wherever I go. The truth is that I had to wear this little cover-up today because you really could be able to see it. This white dress is so see-through, and I didn't have time to get a slip. So this little cover-up is covering up not only my tattoo, but my underwear. Because I wanted you to be paying attention to me. You're right. Oops. Probably more than you wanted to know this morning. Anyway, so back to my experience. So on my way down to the beach, this is the beach. Oh, thank you. This is the beach that I went to. Look at how amazing, how beautiful. Now, on my way down there, I picked up a floating raft. And after a few really hilarious moments of trying to blow up that raft, you can't imagine how hard it was. An angel sitting next to me turns and in this beautiful combination of English and Greek said to me, there is a source of air that you can use, that you can tap into right now over there. So I went over there, and in seconds I was filled up. That raft was full. And so I took that raft and I went out to the water's edge and I paddled out to a place that was a little ways away from the crowds, and I rolled over onto my back. And as I laid there on the raft, I looked up at the blue of the sky, the most amazing blue color, the blue of the sky, and I looked down at the blue of the water, And what I felt was that there was absolutely no separation between the two of them, and that I was right there in the middle of it, that I was one with the sky and with the ocean. I closed my eyes and turned within and felt the support of the raft and the salty seawater. And I recognized it as a representation of the support that I receive every day from the universe, from God. The flow of life, the giving and receiving of the flow of life was palpable to me as my raft shifted with the tides. I looked up onto those beautiful banks up on those cliffs, and I saw the resorts, and I saw people sitting in those resorts, in the restaurants, and they were eating lunch and looking down over onto the beach and to the water. And I intuitively knew that they were drinking in the beauty of all that they could see, and that I was part of that. That I was part of that simply by being there, by being present in that moment. And that that particular view would not have been that particular view without me in it. I was integral to it. I was part of that beauty. It was just this really powerful, sacred moment of really embodying the spiritual truth of oneness and unity with God, with nature, with beauty, with wholeness, and with perfection. It was amazing. Now, the second talking point is that we live in a friendly and supportive universe. Anything, I'm going to say it again, anything that expresses in our experience is for our expanding good. Now, often it takes a shift in our perspective to be able to see the gift or to feel that support, because it's our perspective that gets in the way. Now, have you ever experienced or know someone else that experienced, or heard a story about someone that experienced maybe the loss of a job, or getting into an accident, or receiving a diagnosis, and in that moment they were devastated? But with the passage of time, you or they began to see the gift of the situation and to recognize that it was a pivotal moment, a pivotal point where you or they had the opportunity to see themselves differently and to step into this new vision of themselves and of life. You or they may have even gotten to the point where they were able to say about that experience, it was the best thing that could ever have happened. Clearly, this was shown in the story that Karen told us. The truth is that life happens, right? Life happens. And that some of what we experience, we would really rather not be experiencing it. But the truth is that we don't have to experience struggle around it. That it's not the situation, but what we say or what we think or what we believe about the situation that creates the struggle. Now, while my experience in Greece was absolutely wonderful, it was amazing, there were a few moments in which all of us on the trip could have individually and collectively fallen into struggle. There were a few times when we all believed that plans had been made and put into place for certain guided tours and excursions that were in actuality never prearranged. Now, we could have all been very angry and frustrated by this turn of events, but we were all able to stand in our awareness that we live in a universe that is always supporting us, that God always supports us. And because of this collective awareness, what we were able to create out of this seeming mess was a beautiful tour guide. A tour guide that was beyond all of our expectations. Her name was Despina. And she was a blessing. Now, through her stories and her wisdom and the way that she imparted that, we became acutely aware that she was in total alignment with our teachings. We all felt so supported by her and so guided by her as she described the stories behind the stories, as she described the history and the philosophy and the spirituality behind the ruins. It wasn't just a simple recitation of boring dates and places, but she actually created a container that we could step into and could feel like we were a part of the history, a part of the story. It was truly amazing. Now, because of this collective awareness, what was able to be created out of this seeming mess was an experience of being supported that was beyond all of our expectations. One of the women in our tour fell at the Acropolis and broke her arm. Now, because we were exactly where we were supposed to be, doing exactly what we were supposed to be doing, and doing it with exactly who we were supposed to be doing it with, an angel appeared. An angel appeared in the form of a man who actually appeared out of nowhere. He was just there. And he literally gave her the shirt off of his back to use as a sling. He personified being in service to another from a space and place of joy and such love that we could all feel it deeply. She was forever changed. We all were forever changed by that experience. Now, because of this collective awareness, what was able to be created out of this seeming mess was a bus driver that was beyond all of our expectations. Now, he paid attention to each and every one of us, listening when we didn't even know he was listening, listening for and making happen even our smallest desires. He was an ambassador of God. He was attentive and supportive and, oh, so very patient. Because sometimes corralling this group was like herding cats. The third talking point is that forgiveness is a powerful spiritual tool to shift us from the idea of separation to the idea of our unity with God and with our innate goodness. That forgiveness is not weakness, but one of the most courageous things that we as humans are called to do. Forgiveness is not weak, passive, or for the faint of heart. It calls us to know the depth of our own courage and to trust in our relationship with the God of our understanding. Now, this kind of strength and courage can be witnessed in people like the story that Karen told, or can be witnessed by people that are able to forgive in situations that most of us cannot even imagine living through. This kind of forgiveness was demonstrated by a woman named Immaculée Ilbagaza. Now, she was the woman in the movie The Power of the Heart, which was shown on a Destination Transformation Wednesday night, the last Wednesday in June. Now, if you've seen the movie, you would remember her. And if you haven't seen the movie, I will tell you just a little bit about her. Now, she lived in a small bathroom, like a half bath. She lived in a small bathroom for 91 days with 7 other women standing up. During the middle of the Rwandan Holocaust. Now, what happened in this experience is that she came to experience God. She discovered God. And through that, she was able to forgive those who slaughtered her family. That which she could hear going on outside of this bathroom. She was forever changed. Like the story that Karen told, the man that she forgave in prison was forever changed. The Course in Miracles says, everything I forgive, however small, leads me to my unity with God. In his book, The Book of Forgiving, The Fourfold Path for Healing Ourselves and Our World, Desmond Tutu talks about the long and treacherous journey of South Africa. He said that as the chairman of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, that he was often asked by people, how could the people of South Africa forgive the atrocities and the injustices that they suffered under apartheid? Now, during the apartheid, South Africa was a country that institutionalized racism, inequality, and oppression. In apartheid South Africa, only white people could vote or earn a high-quality education or expect advancement or opportunity. There was decades of protests and violence during this time. Much blood was shed during this long walk to freedom. Now, when at last the leaders were released from prison, they were worried. People were worried that the transition to democracy would become a bloodbath of revenge and retaliation. But miraculously, they chose another future for themselves. Miraculously, they chose forgiveness. They knew that the telling of the truth and the healing that would come out of that would heal their history, and it was the only way to save their country from certain destruction. Desmond Tutu says, I would like to share with you 2 simple truths. There is nothing that cannot be forgiven, and there is no one undeserving of forgiveness. When you can see and understand that we are all bound to one another, whether by birth, by circumstances, or simply by our shared humanity, then you will know this to be true. I have often said that in South Africa there would have been no future without forgiveness. Our rage and our quest for revenge would have been our destruction. This is as true for us individually as it is for us globally. Now, when our wonderful guide Despina was showing us and telling us about the history of Greece, it too had a long, thousands and thousands of year history of war and destruction and inequality and bloodshed and oppression. She too described the need to forgive. That in order to heal and to create the Greece that they wanted to create, the Greece that exists now, they had to forgive. And so they chose to forgive with focus and with intention, and it forever changed the future of Greece. During our trip, our spiritual director, Susie Lula, who's a practitioner at the Agape Center for Spiritual Living in Los Angeles, told a story about her son. Now, this story occurred during another retreat that they were on, and this one was to Bali. And they were walking, as they walked through some of the different street markets, her son, William, would watch as people would haggle with the artisans that were selling their art. And at one point he turned to Susie and he asked, why do people do that? Why do people do that? Why would they want to pay less than what the art was worth? If I was going to buy some art and the artist wanted $10, I wouldn't haggle him for $5. I would probably give him 20 out of the mouth of babes. So I loved that story, and what it brought up for me was this idea that we are a canvas upon which our life is painted, that it is a gift from God. Now, the Centers for Spiritual Living, that canvas is a world that works for everyone, and it too comes with a price. And the currency for that price is gratitude, and allowing, and willingness, and surrender, and love, and service, and yes, forgiveness. Forgiveness. Why would we want to haggle with the price? Why would we want to cheat God or ourselves or each other? Why would we not want to pay full price for a canvas that magnificent? Forgiveness is a big, big part of it. Without forgiveness, we will not thrive as a world community. We will continue to create as we have created for thousands and thousands of years, over and over and over again. Without forgiveness, it will not happen. Desmond Tutu says, the quality of human life on our planet is nothing more than the sum total of our daily interactions with each other. That each time we help and each time we harm, we have a dramatic impact on our world. Because we are human, some of our interactions will go wrong. And then we will hurt, or we will be hurt, or both. It is the nature of being human, and it is unavoidable. Forgiveness is the way we set those interactions right. It is the way we mend tears in the social fabric. It is the way we stop our human community from unraveling. I think that's beautiful. Forgiveness is not always easy, but it is always a choice that we can make, a choice that we really need to make. Forgiveness is capable of producing some of the most profound transformations you could ever hope for or could ever imagine for yourself or for others. Forgiveness has the power to heal both our inner and our outer lives. It can change the way that we see ourselves and see each other. It can change our experience of the world. It can bring an end once and for all to the inner conflicts that so many of us carry around with us every moment of every day. Self-forgiveness is just as important. Imagine the peace. Just sit here and imagine the peace that would come to our planet if all of the people, all of the world people would just let go of old grievances with their neighbors. Just imagine it. Imagine what would happen if we could just let go of century-old battles over racial differences, religious differences, political differences, sexual differences, and past injuries to one another. Just imagine. Sitting in the JFK airport on my way home, I found myself flooded by the news reports of what had been going on in this country while I was away from it, while I was not tapped in and connected to it. The police related deaths of Philando Castile in Minnesota and Alton Sterling in Louisiana, followed by the sniper killing of 5 police officers in Dallas. My thoughts and my prayers go out to each and every person that was in any way affected by this violence, just as my thoughts and my prayers go out to all of those that are experiencing violence of any sort, whether it's another human being or an animal or the planet Earth itself. Now is not the time. Now is not the time to continue to fight violence with violence. It has never worked and it will never work. Now is the time to continue to tell the truth about our oneness, to continue to tell the truth about our unity with God and with each other, to continue to look within, to heal whatever it is that needs to be healed within us, and to let go of any resistance that we have within our own consciousness to peace, so that we can truly be a beacon of light and love to the world. And that when enough of us are doing that, then it will shift. It will forever change the world. We don't have to continue doing it the way we've been doing it. Now is the time to shift. Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon, the spiritual director of the Centers for Spiritual Living, says this is really a consciousness issue. Our modern technology is giving us a gift. The gift to see what is really going on. Our social media reveals that which has always been true, that we are all connected. To quote Mother Teresa, we belong to each other. Through this connection, we see the devastating pain and discomfort that comes when we engage in behavior that breaks the bond of that inherent spiritual connection. Now is the time to come together to feel our collective pain so that we may re-establish our sacred covenant of belonging to one another. Once established in this bond, we must act in accordance with it. This is not just a call to prayer, this is a call to act. To act in affirmation of our sacred connection with the one life of all. This is a time to affirm that all life, everything is sacred. There are no quick and easy answers. There is only the measure of our willingness to create change. So our willingness to create change is the initiation point. It is the starting off point. It demonstrates the courage that we have within us to pay the full currency for the most magnificent canvas of life that we could ever experience. So the invitation today is to do the inner work, to stand firmly grounded in our unity with God and with each other, to recognize our oneness and to honor our differences, and to have the courage to be forgiving so that we can all individually and collectively move forward in a different way, in a very different way from what we have been doing, in a way that could work for everyone. And so it is. And so it is. So I invite you to turn within for a moment as I speak a word of prayer. Recognizing that as I close my outer eyes, I become acutely aware of the power and presence of God within me and surrounding me. I know that this power and presence is the very essence of love, of peace, of joy, of freedom, and of wisdom. I know that it is who and what I am at my very core, that I was created by it, out of it, in its image and likeness, And so I am all that it is. Like a wave upon the ocean of the thing, and yet not the thing, for the thing is so much grander. I am that peace, that joy, that creativity, that love, that freedom, and that wisdom. And just as I know that this is my truth, I know that it is so for each and every person here this morning. Each and every person on the planet, without exception. And it is from this place of unity and oneness that I speak these words about and for each of us today. Truly knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation. That what our human perceptions seem to be telling us is not the truth of who we are, is not the truth of the situation, that behind that veil, behind that fog is the truth. The truth that we are whole, perfect, and complete, each and every single one of us. And what I know about that is that if we live from that space, fully grounded in our awareness of who and what we are, fully standing in our unity with each other, that truly we would live in a world that works for everyone. That it could be no other way. And so I claim for each of us this morning that there is a way that we can step into that way of living powerfully, gracefully. That we can do the work that it takes to clear our own consciousness, to heal anything within us that is getting in the way of that experience in our lives, so that we can be that presence of peace, that presence of freedom, that presence of unconditional love to everyone we meet. And that as we do so, the God within us recognizes the God in all others, and then the God in all others recognize the God in us, and life is grand. So I claim ease and grace for us around this, that we step into this idea of forgiveness in a new way, in a powerful way, in a way that allows us to let go of any resistance that we have to it. To know that it can shift our lives, it can change our lives, that it can cause profound transformation for ourselves, our families, our communities, and our planet. And I'm so grateful to know this truth, so grateful to speak these words, so grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, that they are clothed in form the minute they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them with love and gratitude. And I invite each of us to anchor it for ourselves and for each other by saying, and so it is. Amen.